Road. We're,
Okay.
we're trying to go for about 45 minutes, by the way.
All right.
Um, Before I start, Seth, and what we're talking about is we're talking about working musicians on what to do, what not to do, but definitely emphasize on what not to do. I couldn't help but notice, and this just came up. I always look in Craigslist and kind of see who's around, who might be available. There was this bass player. He advertised in Orange County. He
Okay.
claims to be an emergency backup bassist for for cover bands, wedding bands, other whatnots. He
Sure.
claims that he won't rehearse. Just give him your set. Give this guy your set list. He will show up ready to play because he claims to know over 2,500 songs.
Okay.
From a person of your position, do you think this guy is being remotely truthful?
There's people who can do that, man. Um, I've never done that. It's almost always you have to have a rehearsal of some kind, but I've definitely heard stories of, like people get somebody leaves a tour mid-tour or bails all of a sudden and they got to get somebody right now and they're learning the songs like making notes on the plane as they're watching the live videos that whoever's in charge of things sent to them. And then like Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake, TSO, Night Ranger. I met him when I was at MI. Super awesome, amazing guitarist. Cher. There's almost nobody he hasn't played with, but he did that the first time he played with Night Ranger. They had
Hmm.
never played with him. He went on stage and killed the show and had everything worked out ahead of time.
Right. Okay.
Now this guy, no idea. I'd have to look at his credentials, but there are people who can do that. You
Right.
just have to know every little detail of what's expected, like what the tunings are and how
Hmm.
they go about the show, this, that, and the other. Because how else would you be able to step into that without having
Right.
that information? So Craigslist is so hit and miss, mostly miss.
Right.
Um, for at least for me anyway. I mean, there's legit people on there, but you just gotta be very scrutinous.
Right. Let's get into what not to do's. We're going to start with auditioning. And it's
Okay.
not just, it's not just like, auditioning for, for a cover band, just any kind of band. I have found, I think people who audition should be able to ask questions. And if
Hmm.
people aren't willing to answer them, that's kind of a red flag to me, because these people are new. They're new to me. I may have played for a long time. They may have played for a long time. But if they expect me to read their mind right off the bat, that's a little dangerous, don't you think?
Yeah, and if you're not open-minded enough to ask questions, there's several variables in that equation, a lot. But I mean, it can be, and I think there usually is, unless you get every single question you have answered before you have to show up, which you usually don't, in my experience. I don't think there's. I think if you don't ask questions, you, you should have some, I would assume.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if you have the attitude that I know everything, and I mean, I when I go into one, I know everything as good as I possibly can, but I still have,
Sure.
I mean, I stress myself out over it usually and tweak out and act like I don't know the songs when I go in, and I know I'm just fine by the time I actually get there. But
Sure.
um, I think if you think you know everything and you don't need to ask anything, I think that's rather an arrogant position to take.
Sure. Now, another thing in terms of auditioning, and this, the reason I bring this up because Fleetwood Mac is an example of this. There's nothing wrong with playing with the fairer sex. And I've seen bands with, that are co-ed and other whatnots. The
Mm-hmm.
big thing about, about playing with a woman is that I've heard stories where you make sure your rapport with them is pretty good, because if there's an argument with her, odds are you're going to have an argument with her other half too. If I'm wrong in any way, shape, or form, set the record straight.
Well, I saw that on your list of things that you sent me to ponder over. I can say I've not had that problem. It's because I currently La Quinta, my band leader in Badass Beauty. What is up?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be sending her the link when we're done with this. I told her
Right.
about it yesterday. Um, and then the R&B trio that I was playing with until recently, everybody's got life stuff going on. We haven't been able to get together for a while. Noni, she's an amazing singer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been in. when you're in a band situation with a couple, husband and
Hmm.
wife, boyfriend and girlfriend thing, because I've been in two of those. Um, wasn't too much drama, if any. Everybody was really professional overall.
Sure.
Um, Actually, if the first time, it was when I was in LA. The first time I was in a metal symphonic metal band in Van Nuys, and the husband had more drama than the wife did. The guy was
Sure.
a real piece of work. I'm not saying any names, by the way, for anybody here. I'm
Right.
just going to
Sure.
reference
Of
the
course.
situation. But guy was an amazing, brilliant musician, but could never get anything organized enough. I was in the band for a good year and a half. We never played any shows.
Sure. Now, okay. Now here's something about me. Let's say, let's say Seth, you know, let's say I went to audition for Badass Beauty as a bass
Mm.
player, you know,
Okay.
and I, went in there. I'll, when if you gave me songs to learn, I'll
Mhm.
level with you. My ear is terrible. I can't
Okay.
decode what's E or A. But if if you show me keys, if you show me what the tonic note is, and maybe even show a little bit on the guitar, I can pick it up just like that.
Right.
You know, have you dealt with people like that?
Oh, people that don't learn by ear.
Yeah, I can't learn by ear.
Oh, okay.
I have to
So I
visualize.
can. Gotcha. Okay, because you put on your sheet of what not to do. Like if you don't have perfect pitch, don't try to learn songs by ear.
Right,
And so this is my thing because I have perfect pitch.
right.
Um, and people think at least it sounds snobby, and because
Hmm.
it's not a snob thing. It's just literally I hear stuff that nobody else can. It's because 1 in 10,000 people have it. It's also called absolute pitch.
Right.
It freaks me out to the degree that I can do it because I hear a song that I've never heard before because I do it like three songs in not even a half an hour. I have the whole thing figured out and I've never heard them with one student. But I can tell you the chords and like melodies and lead lines and stuff like I've been playing it forever and I just heard it for the first time. So it's something that's still like that I can do that. But of course I do it almost every day. The but a lot of people do learn by ear because they have what's called relative pitch.
Sure.
So they're able to stumble around enough to where they can figure it out eventually because they just land on the right note that matches,
Right.
or they know keys like yourself, where they can figure out because they know like the fretboard in that key, whatever. They just need to know the
Mhm.
positions and the changes and all that sort of stuff. And with La Quinta, if we did have the need for another bass player, just for sake of argument,
Right.
um, I know you already, so if it was you or whoever it may be, I would actually I charted the songs out a long time ago, but
Sure.
I don't think I have that stuff anymore. But she also lets us be ourselves, so it's as long as the structure is there, you've got some leeway to inflect your own pizzazz or whatever you want to call it there. But some people don't know keys either. It's I mean,
Okay.
if you're a pro, I don't know how you couldn't know that if
I
you're going to be in a band or learn songs at all, especially for
I
auditions. If you're going to show
I
up looking like you know what the hell you're
I
doing.
I have an incredibly difficult time working, playing with people who don't have the concept of at least the basic music, music theory, at least know E minor and A minor, and that kind of thing. Don't have to know all the modes. I know the modes, but that's
Okay.
hard for me to work with. Ace Frehley would drive me nuts,
A lot of people
because
don't know theory.
yeah, a lot of people don't know theory,
They
and I'm man enough to admit it's like if a person doesn't know theory, I have a hard time working with them. That's hard for me. But
okay.
all
That
right,
just go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, that just literally depends on if it's something that needs to be communicated or not.
Right. Now, if this is stuff like Blink 182, kind of real simple stuff, ZZ Top, theory's not really that necessary. It's pretty basic stuff, wouldn't you think?
It is, but you can still analyze it and narrow it down to it's this kind of progression, it's this scale,
Right.
it's this interval, whatever, because it can all be analyzed and broken down into all of that musical
Mhm.
context. In a rock band, not, I mean, it's not necessary, but it can be done. Um, like the title track, the first song we play, the song "Badass Beauty," it's in Phrygian dominant.
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is the scale that Power Slave Iron
Right.
Maiden is played in.
Mm-hmm.
It's this, is to quote Paul Gilbert, the snake charming scale.
Okay. Okay. In terms of auditioning, I'm gonna let you have the final word. What else should people not do?
Oh, I got, let me look at my list I made here. Okay. Oh, I'll try to just run it down quick honestly, auditions and just a bunch of stuff, period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Show up late.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that.
Right.
There are reasons as to why it's okay, but if you're gonna be, do your best to let them know ahead of time. Like dealing with parking and traffic. If you've been in LA more than a week, you know that's part of life here. Adapt or die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't show up unprepared, or show up as prepared as possible. Like you mentioned in the beginning, if you have questions, ask them. If there's certain things you don't know, you're just not getting. Like one of the last auditions I did, I was as prepared as I could be, and I was
Mm-hmm.
still it didn't go well. Let's put it that way. It
Sure.
went as well as it could. Um, don't show up at the wrong kind of gear,
Mm-hmm.
um, or having the wrong tone dialed in. Remind me to touch on that again some more later.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take forever to set up.
Mm-hmm.
Do not have piss poor communication skills, whether it be verbal, phone, messaging, and or musical.
Right.
Don't have a poor attitude or an unrealistic, unhealthy, arrogant ego. Do not tune out loud.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves. I will
Mm-hmm.
nuke somebody's ass right now for that shit. There's tuners for everything. There's
Mm-hmm.
headstock tuners, there's pedal tuners, there's rack mount tuners. You can have a damn tuner built into the volume pot on your fucking guitar. There is
Right.
no excuse for that shit unless you have an
Right.
acoustic instrument where you have no option.
Uh-huh.
Um, Making it all about you versus contributing to the whole. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then being on time. Don't disrespect everyone else's time or dedication to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just basic musician stuff, not being able to count or know where you're supposed to come in at, those kind of things, and not knowing what your gear will and won't do.
Okay.
That goes for across the board for musicians, period, not just for auditions. I'd say the majority of situations you're going to find yourself in.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move on. I'm going to talk about the second part is we're going to talk about show performance, and we're at a certain age. This really isn't a factor with us, but it's more of the 20s and 30s. People just still thinking they're immortal and all that. The one thing I thought it was a do not do: don't get drunk before sets.
Oh, that's definitely a bad thing to do.
It's a horrible thing to do, and I just have you seen a situation where someone just pretty much couldn't handle themselves, and that pretty much made them very unemployed and unemployable.
Yeah, I discovered because I started gigging when I was 25. Um, that even after a couple of beers, I just didn't play or sing as well, and dried up my vocal cords and that kind of stuff, and just didn't work for me. That was when I was doing all night bar gigs. But I've been real fortunate to not have that kind of thing happen in band situations very often. The worst
Right.
one was this town, Plymouth, Indiana. I played there, I think, three different places. This was the third and last gig we did at this club, but we had never had a good gig there. But the last gig, the bass player showed up drunk already,
Um.
or he had been drinking. And at the end of the night, the sound guy was an asshole, to be fair.
Mhm.
But he threatened to beat the shit out of the sound guy. And then at the end of the night, for the last couple of songs, he turned his bass amp all the way up, put his bass on the stand, and then sat at the bar watching us play. Finished the set out drinking a beer with it feeding back so loud nobody could hear anything except for that.
Oh.
And of course, we never played there again.
Right. Yeah.
We were lucky we got paid that night.
Right.
But that's
Okay.
the only time that's ever happened to me in any kind of capacity where it affected me professionally. Because if I'm in charge of stuff, I have a zero tolerance policy on any of that.
Right. Okay. We're going to continue the what not themes. What will make people unemployable when it comes to show performance?
Um, well, the actually a bunch of the things that, depending on the severity, but there's just certain things that should not have to be communicated to people.
Hmm.
Like well, in Badass Beauty, we had two prior guitarists.
Hmm.
Uh, and if I had been, not that I'm unintelligent, but if I had thought about it further, and I've told her this, I would have thought about it some more and figured out that I was more than capable of playing all the stuff myself.
Sure.
Would have saved her money and time and all that. But you live and you learn. And I'm
Hmm.
usually the only guitarist in most of the groups I've played in, unless it's an absolute necessity.
Right.
Or if it's like a Maiden tribute band or somewhere, you got to
Right.
have two minimum, or Thin Lizzy, whatever, harmonize and all that stuff. Going to use the skills of both. But the one guy quit because he just had too much else going on, but
Hmm.
he never had the right tone.
Sure.
Played metal rhythm guitar in his neck pickup.
Okay.
Hello, McFly.
Hmm.
You know, and then and he didn't have the right look for the group either. I mean,
Sure.
we look. If you see a foot, I mean, you got Ian, who's the short bass player. You
Hmm.
got me, the big Viking dude. You got LaQuinta, and then you got Robbie, who's the bald dude, who's the new drummer.
Right.
But we look like we belong in a band. But this guy was a short, chubby, curly-haired stoner dude.
Hmm.
But the previous guy, um, he never learned the songs, and then he was the guy who took forever to set up. He didn't even have a pedal board. He would connect. He would get all his pedals out, hook them up, and like get each cable out and get each power supply out, and take 15 minutes to set up. And he was already late, and he got canned because he was late and had an attitude when he showed up. Finally,
Hmm.
he was already surely on his way out because she's in charge of everything. She's got the final say. She respects and cares about what we think and asks us every rehearsal any questions, qualms, concerns. But the final decision, of course, is up to her.
Right. Well,
And both of those guys, I can vouch for. They only took that gig because it was paid. They didn't give a
sure.
shit.
Right. Okay. All right. Going back to performances, I know you really want to get into the business end of things. So let's finish up the basic what not to do at shows. You got anything else, or are you ready to move on?
Um, Besides the getting drunk thing, I think most of what I went over as far as, I guess it depends on what kind of gig it would be. Like if it's a hired gun gig,
Hmm.
usually it's you're playing for an artist, like the Little Quinta gig's a hired gun gig. Um,
Right.
but it feels more like a band since I've been playing with her for so long now. But she is the star of the whole thing because she is the badass beauty.
Right.
But usually it's to where like if you have a gig like that, you can't overshadow the person whose like name is on the marquee.
Right.
That's a no-no. You usually have your chance to shine anyway. From what I know, I've done a decent amount of hired gun gigs in LA, but not anything that was high profile or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to I know what you're passionate about, and that is being compensated fairly, being treated with respect, the business end of things, the business end of the deal. For those who don't know me, I have a studio only project called Suncager, in which I have the privilege of having Mr. Worsham on board. We're going to be rebooting Dawkins' Mr. Scary. We're calling him Mr. Scarier. We just started the process actually today. You know, with scratch bass tracks. We already got drums. Seth's gonna, put his spin on things pretty soon. And I found, Seth, I found you on, found you. I think was it Facebook or was
Facebook
it
group.
Craigslist?
Yeah, it was a Facebook group.
Was
Actually,
it
I
a face?
messaged you. Yeah.
Right. We did that. We met, and fortunately, the original thing that we agreed to do. Fortunately, we changed it. Fortunately, because all my gigs are paid, but some gigs, are higher more than others. If someone's playing, Tush from ZZ Top, they're getting $50. if they're doing something, that requires some investigation, I got to offer more money because if you want good things, that's my philosophy. Good things cost money. You
Yes.
know,
My,
yeah.
I had a mechanic out in West Hills. He used to work on my old pickup.
Hmm.
And for the record, if you can afford it, great. And technically I could. It's never cheap to hire any mechanic who's good or anybody who
Right.
does anything good. It shouldn't be. But don't take anything to somebody from Switzerland.
Right.
It's not that they don't do great work, but they will charge you the highest possible price. It'll be perfect, but it'll cost you a fortune. But he had a thing in his garage that said, "Good work ain't cheap, and cheap work ain't good."
Right. And my philosophy is, you know, good people and good things cost money. And, you've gotten to know me a little bit. I do business, the way I do. But Seth, in your situations as I've gotten to know you, I'm surprised you haven't shot anybody yet.
Oh yeah, me too, dude. I have the patience of Job when it comes to, so I have a long fuse, really
Right.
long. I have a temper too, and people don't know that about me because I'm a bit of a gentle giant. I mean,
Sure.
I'm 6'2", 220 pounds, but but it's so hard. As much as there shouldn't be any reason to not go off on these people,
Mhm.
it's it's a fine line because if you always risk what reputation you have, because if one person thinks you're difficult, no matter how justified you are in saying
Mhm.
whatever you're pissed about, that can screw you somehow.
Right.
And
Now,
that's why one reason I'm not naming any names here. I mean, and not
right,
that
we're
I
not.
don't associate with those people now anyway, but it's like the last situation I told you about. I found out for the second gig in a row that I was being paid less than everybody else.
Right.
And when I emailed the guy very diplomatically, and
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm super thorough, like more than anybody else I know.
Right.
Especially when I give a shit about something.
Sure.
It was several paragraphs long, and I just flat out told him, I said, dude, I don't like this, that, and the other,
Right.
and I didn't insult him or anything like that.
Right.
What I put it towards him as I said, I found out some less than jubilant information,
Right.
and told him it's on my terms or nothing from here out. I don't
Right.
want, and I didn't want to talk to him because I don't trust anything he says now.
Right.
And then he said and it, and here's another thing not to do. Don't ever believe someone when they tell you they appreciate you, but they're paying you shit,
Right.
or they're paying you shit or inconsistently. He's the second person in a row who's told me that. Bullshit that
Right.
you appreciate me, asshole.
Right.
But but it's but I mentioned when I replied to that
Hmm.
that I knew where I was appreciated and I would be contributing my time, skill, and efforts to those environments. And he shoots back with, "I'm self-sabotaging myself and I'm immature and uh, I can't remember what all else, and still hopes we can work together in the future." And it's like I didn't bother to give him the satisfaction of replying to that. I just let it be done.
Right. Yeah. And moving on.
And
Um.
it's good that I've encountered those situations though, because I'm looking at it from a whole new angle now.
Hmm.
It's because the gig I did prior to that, it didn't turn out well for me either.
Right.
Um, I've exhausted myself for barely anything and did a stellar, amazing job for these people and didn't turn into anything else. It could sometime, but you don't know. I mean, contact you made 5 years ago could end up doing you something out of nowhere. But
Right.
uh, it's but yeah, it's very difficult to keep an even keel because I know the quality level that I bring to every situation that I'm in, and I'm at the
Hmm.
point where it's either going to benefit me or I am not giving a shit.
Right. And understandable position. Um. I have to ask you because you're in a position to know. When it comes to corporations or like corporate gigs or like, you know, high profile, tripping guys, I'm going to use like ABBA Mania, for example. ABBA Mania is a touring, ABBA tribute act. I saw them 8 years
Okay.
ago in Denver. Now I was impressed. They put on a great show and all that. Is there a community of haves and have-nots when it comes to getting gigs like that?
I've never done any kind of big tribute or corporate gigs at all, honestly.
Okay.
Um, I talked to a guy. and I can't remember the name of the band now, but it was I found them on Musicians Contact late last year. They were doing Styx, Foreigner, and Journey,
Hmm.
and they said they don't do any gigs. I think the one place that paid him the least still paid him like 2,100 a night for a 90-minute set in
Sure.
Temecula, but they usually did gigs for 4 or 5 grand for a 90-minute set.
Right.
And when I talked to the guy the first time, he was doing a gig in Tucson, I think, the night after that.
Right.
But so I don't. I did recently, literally this week, though. I looked up just agencies that hire musicians for high-paying events like that, and I'm going to be figuring out what to do to get on their roster and all that because this small-time shit is not doing anything for me. Never has.
Right. Yeah, I just said it's like, it's like Seth. One of the things about people, and they claim, they can be temperamental and other whatnots. Sometimes people do not respond to diplomacy. They don't. It's like, if the first go around, someone I'll say please, and if the guy's being delivered disrespectful, the second time around, I'm like, dude, get it together. Being straightforward. I find
Mhm.
that you know if I have to deal with someone like that, this after doing that, it's kind of it disturbs me somewhat. What do you think?
Yeah, it's basic human decency is shouldn't have to be asked for.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like the worst situation I've been in recently, I likely told you about this. If I didn't, I'm surprised, but it
No.
was rich dude over in Agora Hills,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a specific reason as to why it was. I liked the music. It was a hired gun, play this dude's original music, but the guy had. I mean, he was hospitable for I think I did 8 rehearsals total,
Right.
something like that. But the guy couldn't musically communicate at all. But I've never
Mm.
been. This was one of the first two people in the last year and a half or so that told me they appreciated me. But this
Sure.
dude told me that after he paid me less than the previous time,
Right.
and then nitpicked the living shit out of my playing the whole time, and then tells
Mm.
me how much he loves what I'm doing. It's like no clear communication of any kind. And then even on his own song, he would
Mm.
fuck up and then yell at us and make us stop because he didn't know where to come in at on a damn song he supposedly wrote. I mean, and that was the last straw for me. I ended up having more fun going out and having a beer with the drummer afterwards. I couldn't be in the
Right.
same room with the guy again.
Right.
And that's one thing I've run into too. Only in that situation, especially, you get these people out here who just have money.
Right.
We rehearsed in his guest house at his
Mm.
mansion.
Okay.
Um, they get you get these people who have money and instruments, and I don't know what he did. He was obviously loaded, or somebody was funding his lifestyle.
Mm.
But 'cause he said he did movies for independent film music for movies and TV. I don't know how much validity there was to that, but either
Right.
way, you get these people who have funds of whatever kind, and they think they know music. So, and they need
Right.
people like us. And then
Right.
we show up knowing our shit inside and out, but they still want to nitpick the hell out of us because they think they know what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And it's like it's like if you're going to do that, you better be paid a whole lot better, asshole.
Right. Now, okay. And here's this is where I really, really want you to be blunt. AI music. AI music does not belong at all whatsoever.
I don't want anything to do with it. Um,
Um,
it
how do you see AI impacting the music market in terms of performance?
I don't know too many people who like it. I mean, I, I know it can be helpful to some extent. Like one of my friends out here, sent me a bunch of his original songs, and you could tell the vocals were AI, and he just did that so he could finish them. As far as having the ideas as concrete, full ideas, so whenever he got a real singer, he can bring somebody and said, "This is the basic, use this as a template," kind of thing.
Right.
Um, but as far as when it would come down to having, he wouldn't ever do that and put that out. He would have real musicians playing on it and
Right.
also live. People using Suno, and I think that's what he used to do it. And I loved all the songs; they were all power metal type songs.
Sure. Of course.
And but I don't want anything to do with it. Quite honestly, it's. I see people on a lot of these Facebook groups, um, and they're for songwriters, and they say, what, I'm writing a song. How can I have AI help me do that? I say, well, you're not writing a song if you're letting AI help you because you're not creating anything from your own soul.
Right.
And if you want to write a song, then write a song. I
Right.
mean, yeah, use it. I mean, vocalists, I know they use a like Rob Halford. I know he has a thesaurus on hand at all times.
Hmm.
Um, he's really great at finding unique words to put into whatever he does. There was I forget which word and which song it was on Firepower, but he said he'd never used this one particular word. I think it was the word collusion or something.
Hmm.
I have to look it up now, but
Okay.
you know that's not AI. That's just a helpful tool to give you different words for the same that have the same definition. Um, and you know it's the like people who use auto tune.
Hmm.
Like, why? And you know, as much as we all know David Lee Roth can't sing anymore,
Right.
and guys like Don Dokken, sadly,
Hmm. Right.
it's bad.
Right.
Um, but you know, I'd rather hear them doing it without that and hear
Right.
their authentic voice than them fake it and bullshit people.
Right. Yeah. And that leads into because I'd like to think, Seth, that you can kind of detect, insincere musicianship. That's the best, it's people who really love it versus people who are just getting paid. Can you tell the difference?
It's harder to tell that. Now you can tell when if they're not a good actor,
Right.
then you can tell when somebody's not into it for sure. Yeah. Because literally the last I must be a really great actor the last two gigs that I did because I couldn't hear myself at all either one of them,
Uh,
and so I had to pretend like I was enjoying myself, and I must have done a damn good job because I was violently pissed both
uh,
times.
okay. We're not going to mention the name of the band where we met, down in OC, but
Not
I
worth
remember,
mentioning anyway.
yeah, we're not, let me put you like this. You convinced me and my wife that you were just absolutely loving what you were playing. And when you
I was
told me
having a good
later,
time, and that wasn't a terrible show. Which I think the
oh,
show that was only the second show we did before I
right,
quit.
right.
Um,
I just remember you telling me factual things afterwards. I'm just kind of like, man, that
yeah.
that is like, if not for the video, you wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it either.
Right. We got nothing for that gig because we needed it for video and promotion. I don't think anybody got paid that night. And they had something like seven bands there,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
another whole topic of this is such horse shit, but people do
R-
it. You know,
Right.
if they stop saying, if they start saying we're not doing it for nothing, kiss pound sand, then, you know, something might change.
Um,
But yeah, as far as the faking it thing is like I thought of this on the way home today because, you know, if you're a working musician, it's a conundrum because you got to eat and there's plenty of stuff you're going to play like songs that a lot of kids and my students 'cause that's my main gig bring me.
mhm.
They're not stuff that I would go out to listen to. A lot of it's just this is crap. But
Right.
you're giving them what they want and making them happy, and that's what puts the money in the pocket.
Right.
But you know, I did those Neil Diamond gigs last summer,
Mhm.
and you can tell how huge of a Neil Diamond fan I am. You know,
Right.
and but
Well,
it was barely, but it was paid work, and I agreed to do it, and I did a stellar job for them. And the songs are, you know, they're most of them are fun, except for the ones that are actually were fairly difficult, just as far as how many chords and the memorization part of things. And you could tell I was enjoying myself when I was playing it, and I actually was. So
right.
it's hard to tell because you're not supposed to if you really aren't enjoying yourself, if you're a
Mhm.
professional, you just gotta act like you are anyway.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, cranking it up through my half stack playing Scorpions tunes is hardly a bad time,
Right.
uh, as much as because and actually the stupid BS with that band didn't honestly start until after that gig.
Okay.
There was some a little bit ahead before that, just with how dumbass one of the other guys was being.
Right.
Um, but that didn't really start up until after we were trying to just continue at whatever level past that.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna shift gears on you. I'm gonna bring up a little bit of a topic, and this is something that you and I are doing together. And I'm extremely optimistic. What you and I are going to do together, it's going to go over well. Everybody's going to
Mm,
love it. But working with people across, remotely,
mm,
I think is a challenge in itself. In which I've been doing this, because I've done my Black Sabbath reboot, my Faith No More reboot. I did, my original band's reboot, doing Mr. Scarier to Call of Cthulhu by Metallica. And I
mm.
have found that, working with people remotely is a good thing, but it's a challenging thing in the regard of knowing people's tendencies. You know, what's your impressions and thoughts on that?
Honestly, I've never done any musical work remotely as far as recording or anything like that.
First time for everything, you and me.
Yeah, right.
And it
Um, and I don't have anything against it. It's just not the same as being in the same room when you're laying the tracks down.
right, but sometimes,
It's
sometimes, Seth, the economics of things and the physical factors and other whatnots, sometimes that prohibits it. You know, I'm
Mhm.
I'm with you, Seth. I would kill to just be by your side with this, with this. I'd kill to hang with you for hours at a time. But economically, you may not be able to afford to do that.
right. Yeah, it's
So
definitely great for convenience. I mean, I know I just read online today that the newest Judas Priest album is almost, if not completely done or pretty close to done already.
right,
Um, but I am pretty damn sure all those guys do their parts separately from each other.
right. Because okay, Seth, this is a confession. I'm going to admit it. There's no other person that is new in my life in the last year that I've wanted to talk heavy metal with for hours on end than you, because you know your stuff.
I
I
appreciate
know
that,
a
man.
thing, another thing or two. But I had a
Metal
business
for life.
obligation. I had a business obligation. I had to take care of business first, and I'm serious about getting Mr. Scary done in the best way possible. Then one day
Right.
you and I can talk metal all night long.
Let's just do a regular episode on this album, this band, this genre,
Right.
this what's the word, subgenre, or this era. I'm
Yeah.
down, dude.
Okay, cool. Understand that, one of the things I want this project series, these podcasts to accomplish, just that it's like, man, take care of business. Take care of business first. And when the business, and doing business when it's done the right way, then people want to do a better job in my experiences.
Yeah. I mean, my dad, I was telling a student this the other day, um, because he's 10, but he's been with me for 4 years, so this kid knows
Mm,
he can't pull any BS with me. I don't let him get by with anything. He's not like a sneaky, kid who's a pain either. He just doesn't apply himself
right.
a lot of the time. But one of the most valuable things my dad ever taught me was do it right the first time.
Sure.
Because if I didn't, I would have to do it again and again and again until it was satisfactory.
Right.
Maybe through
Right.
his damn guts, but it's like I learned, this is gonna, if you just focus and do it right the first time, you're not
Right.
gonna have to do this again.
Right.
And
Um,
I just remembered something else too, as far as the list
please.
of not what to do.
Hmm.
This is really important. I call it, and it can apply to any musician or anybody who just has an unhealthy ego about their role in whatever they're doing.
Hmm.
But with this guitarist specifically, I call it guitar playeritis.
Right.
And it's don't be self-indulgent and play what you want to play just because you want to play it. Respect
Hmm.
the music first, always.
Right. Okay. Let's. This will be the first of a numerous series of you and me on Zoom. Moving forward. Um, but let's the last few minutes before I stop recording. How do you? Tell me your experiences about being an educator, being a guitar teacher, a music teacher. You know, have you considered doing that full time? Has it been offered to you? You've got credentials.
Well, technically I do because that's my main job. I teach 5 days a week. It's just really difficult to get any one location because I've taught at a lot of places
Okay.
to where they can even because where they have enough hours to give you at all at any given time.
Right.
When I was at Guitar Center, I'm still there 3 days a week, but I was there 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I was there 5 days a week, and I had almost 50 students.
Right.
Now I have less than 20 there.
Right.
Of course, it's times have changed in 3 years, but I still was not getting full-time hours there with that
Right.
many students and being there that much.
Right.
And I think that was the only place I was teaching at the time.
Yeah.
And then I got that job in Burbank last year and took a day off. And then I just had to have a day off because I was working, I think I was working 7 days a week at that time. So
Hmm.
I took one day off just to make sure I could move some students over, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for jobs.
Right.
And and that's another good topic for, what to do and what not to do as an educator, because there's still a lot of the same things. It just doesn't focus on the performance side of things.
Sure.
That's a whole
Okay.
that's a whole other thing. Patience is the number one thing for that.
Well,
But yeah, I would definitely I would love to be in one because I'm teaching at two locations now.
right.
But it fluctuates so much, and that's one of the most difficult parts of it. Your income fluctuates all the time because there's nothing stopping three of your students from or more from quitting all of a sudden.
Right.
And then you gotta wait until if however long they fill back up. Like right now, I only have two students on Fridays.
Right.
I had three. One guy's going to be back in the early part of June, I think.
Hmm.
And then but then we have another student showcase, and I could get two more, and it could fill back up again. But you just never know how long you're going to have anybody for. So, getting that steady. I've had the steady work for a really long time, but as far as getting full-time hours at any capacity, even like 30 hours a week, it's been difficult. Plus, the credentials I have, I only have an associate's degree,
Okay.
and a lot of people want stupidly, and I say that because it's they're the employer, but that education has very little to do with what the client wants. They don't care about your music education. They absolutely do not. But they usually want you to have a bachelor's. Of course, with the amount of experience I have the equivalent of that in
Sure.
droves. I'll spank somebody who's got a bachelor's degree just got out of music school.
That's
So,
beautiful.
because they might be a better player than I am, like technically and all that, but they're not going to know. Let's put you in a room with a screaming child. See how you handle that.
Right.
See how long you last,
Uh,
or any given number of scenarios. So it's like, and then applying for new jobs, it's difficult. Like I had an interview in January at a place around Santa Monica area, but I never heard back from them. But now I'm seeing their ads advertising for somebody else again. So I'm thinking of calling and say, hey, did you ever decide about something?
right.
I don't know if it's even worth
Sure.
it now.
Hmm.
And then when they advertise for people too, they almost never have work for you to start,
Okay.
which is
Um,
the worst part of it.
and on that note, I would like to tell LaQuinta Prince, I look forward to seeing Badass Beauty featuring Seth Worsham Saturday night, August 1st at the Whiskey.
And
I will,
well, it won't be billed as featuring Seth Worsham, but it's also Ian Shea and Robbie Furby.
right,
I hope I said that
right,
right. It's a new
right.
drummer. Because it
One of
because
them,
it literally does feel like a band. It definitely is.
right.
But yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's been. I'm sure you saw that last story she posted with all the setbacks and
Yep,
everything, and it's been 3 years next month. Me and Ian have been playing with her.
right.
And we did one show last January, but it was more than a little bit of a shit show. It was successful as much as it could be, but it was
Mhm.
definitely not like a crown jewel of a thing. We just did the best we could with it, and that's how a lot of gigs go. You know that.
Okay.
But
All
this
right, my
should be
friend.
totally great. We're opening for a Bowie tribute,
Whew.
um, and I think we're like second on the bill that night. Not entirely positive. That's the only details we've been given so far. But yeah, or we got a rehearsal next Sunday, and then we got a photo shoot on the 20th next month, and then that's we also have a warm up show on July 25th in the Valley in Tarzana, a place called Valley Rocks.
Hmm.
But it's going to be, yeah, it's getting. I'm sure I've probably sent you photos, but I have so many guitars, I don't expect anybody to remember them all. But I'm going to use my either my V or my Destroyer for the gigs.
Okay. All right, buddy. On that note,